So somebody said, well, you ought to go with the Harvester. They're trying to hire people.
Many people thought a job with Harvester was a job for life.
I was going to work for the International Harvester.
My employee number was 24936.
Interviewed out of high school.
This was my second job out of high school.
I started second shift. Of course, you had to be on second shift for quite a few years before you ever got on days.
I started in machine shop.
Hired in as just a detailer to begin with.
Handyman, go get this, go get that.
Hired in as a steno 2.
The forge shops on Third Trick. Learned real quick why people wear hard hats.
I worked in the blueprint room and the vault.
I started out on the broom.
I was a janitor on third shift.
Mopped and washed every floor in that building.
Key punch operator.
I started at Key Punch, and that's all obsolete now.
I started out setting engines in the Scout, on the Scout line.
The line work was tough, and it was hard.
I built some muscles up doing that job.
Just give me the job that maybe has the most overtime and your highest assembly rate. And I ended up down the basement on axle assembly.
You started in with low seniority, you worked the hard jobs.
Opportunity to do a lot of different things.
I worked in the hot room.
You might be a brake engineer one day, but you might be a chassis engineer the next day.
In the cold room.
I was a reliability engineer.
Special equipment engineering.
I worked in SE for a while. I worked in the chassis group for a while.
I was a clay modeler.
You were able to move around from one department to the next.
And I went to warehousing for about 5 years.
I was in the brake department.
I transferred over to the machine shop.
Cab mount.
Parts chaser.
Building housings.
Rail fields, and I worked inside, I worked outside.
The top mounts.
Did brake work, I did steering.
Machine shop where they used to make the parts.
Body mount, which you had to watch your fingers. You had to be timely, quick, and you had to keep up the line.
I was an expediter. Actually, I was a buyer's assistant for a while.
I was in expediting.
Planning department.
Went to timekeeping, which I loved.
I did all the painting for a design group.
Then I worked engine mount. Then I got in on the finished body line.
In my 40 years, I had 16 different jobs.
Well, Grandpa, he says, you never were on a job more than a couple of years until the end. He says, couldn't you hold a job?
This is only a handful of people representing the tens of thousands of people who worked at International Harvester in Fort Wayne, Indiana throughout its 92-year stay in the city. It was a dependable place where a person could get a good paying job and count on working there until the day they were ready to retire.
I started there in '66 in road test as an M140 mechanic.
Now I hired in 65.
1968.
Late 59, early 60.
60, 61, something like that.
January of 1963.
Started in 1963.
March of 1966.
1966.
1966.
1970.
I started in 1986.
February of '98. 1941.
I worked here a little over 7 years.
I was here 30 years.
35.8 years.
37 years.
And I retired with 37 years.
Ended up working 37 years.
Put in 39 years.
39.7 years.
40 years in a couple weeks.
I had 41 years service.
41.9 years.
So I just got my 50 years in.
I never thought I would last 2 or 3 years, and I made a career out of it.
Through a good many decades of the 20th century, people like these used their minds and hands to conceive and build vehicles that helped make America. They helped a nation fight our battles. They kept America moving. They gave hard-working Americans something to look forward to on the weekends and captured the hearts of many.
I love love old trucks. I've been around trucks all my life.
I'm an IH man, I'll tell you that.
Any old car, any old truck is of interest to someone.
Somewhere along the line, a truck was involved in everything except the air you breathe.
If I can design vehicles for the rest of my life, I'll be the happiest camper you ever saw.
At times, they had 10,000 people working.
The best hourly jobs in the county.
It was good money.
On the line, we made good pay.
At the end of the week, there were some good rewards.
I liked the money.
I enjoyed the pay, I think, most of all, really.
When I come out of school and I went to work there as a trainee, I think I got $3.28 or $3.29 an hour. Now, when I left there, it was close to $7 an hour, It was big money.
I made $15 a week.
If you had a family member, that was a natural pull.
They liked to have families there because they would get on each other's back if they didn't do a good job or they weren't 100% in their attendance.
If that guy's a good worker, maybe his son's a good worker.
My grandfather worked here, my uncle worked here, my wife had several uncles who worked here.
I was the second generation. My daughter worked there, was the third generation.
I worked from 11 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. Had class started at 8 o'clock.
It was hard work.
As you got older, you didn't want to do it.
International Harvester says its production will increase by 50% next month when it begins work on 1,800 new Paystar trucks for Iraq.
Production was at its peak. We were producing 205 heavy-duty trucks a day. Most that any heavy-duty truck plant in the world ever did.
We were the king of cab-over-engine trucks.
A lot of manufacturers just build a truck and then you made it the way you wanted it. Harvester built it the way you wanted it right from the beginning.
I'd get around Fort Wayne down there and I would just drool because that was the truck capital of the world. And International, in my opinion, is the best truck ever built.
When they built the Hoover Dam, my gosh, they used all Harvester trucks. I started collecting Scouts in the early 70s.
It was a strong vehicle and it was stiff suspension, but it was very strong. Farmers absolutely loved it.
They know two names. They know Farmall tractors and they know the Scout.
It wasn't fast, but it was a lot of fun.
Very simple vehicle to work on.
After you work on it all winter, and you get it to where you can take off and drive it, turn the radio on, go to a friend's house. It's pretty cool.